Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
Sophie Cunningham, more popular than Caitlin Clark? Is it true? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate all your support. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 19. Let's dig into this, find out what this actually means. And then this made me think of some other instances from some other players that I think is really important to talk about when we get into the growth of the WNBA. Sophie Cunningham eclipses Caitlin Clark for most searched women's athlete crown. Do people still use search engines? Let me know in the comments below. I mean, I know that seems kind of bizarre, but I personally don't use Google that much anymore. And it's not because I go into ChatGPT or Grok or whatever. It's just that the way the page has evolved over time with it's almost useless. Real legitimate results are buried down at the bottom of the page. You've got like the AI, you've got all this other stuff on there that's just made it basically useless. Anyway, Sophie Cunningham took Caitlin Clark's spot in the United States most searched athletes list. I'm not so sure, but we'll dig into it and find out. So let's see what we've got here. One of the biggest stories in women's basketball this season, last season, I guess, especially among the Indiana Fever, was Sophie Cunningham's rise to superstardom. While Cunningham cultivated a solid fan base during her first six WNBA seasons, her being traded to the Fever last offseason presented a great opportunity for her to capitalize on Indiana becoming the league's most popular team after they drafted Caitlin Clark in 2024. No argument with that. I think Sophie Cunningham was very, very popular before Caitlin Clark, but again, relative, right? They mentioned about the WNBA. The WNBA didn't have a whole lot of presence, a whole lot of, inroad into the culture. And of course, then when she made that transition to the Indiana Fever, it absolutely exploded. Why? Why exactly did it explode? Well, look, we can mention the obvious that people don't want to talk about, and that's that, to use a more current phrase, Sophie Cunningham is a flat out smoke show, period. But that is not enough, believe it or not. She has also turned out to be extremely likable. People like Sophie Cunningham. I know it sounds like a simple thing, but it seems to be very, very rare with the WNBA. On top of that, Sophie Cunningham seems to like and embrace not only Caitlin Clark as a person, Caitlin Clark and what she does on the basketball court, but has embraced what Caitlin Clark has brought to the WNBA and what she has meant to other players in terms of opportunities. Instead of being jealous and petty and insecure, she has full on embraced that, and the fans appreciate that. And then, of course, there is the thing that I think took her to the next level. That, of course, is the incident after an entire season of 2024, where Caitlin Clark fans watched her get abused, slapped, smacked, slammed to the ground repeatedly. Forget the no fouls being called. But how about no teammates coming to her defense all season long? And there's still a lot of teammates, and by the way, some of them that you Caitlin Clark fans really like, who still don't come to her defense, have still never come to her defense, and will never bother to come to her defense. But my point being, Sophie Cunningham was finally the first player on the Fever to really make a statement when it came to players playing dirty against Caitlin Clark. And that was, of course, this incident here that we all remember. Hopefully, you can see this because I'm going to let it run through. I don't know if I'm allowed to show it all or not. I'm going to give it a try. But we had this. Now, this is the end result, of course. This was the end result of what had happened previously. Sophie Cunningham made it very, very clear. And look, I'll also say this because a lot of people say, "Oh, it wasn't about Caitlin Clark," and she said it after the fact. I think it was both. Sophie's making a statement in general for her team. She's also making a statement from a previous game with JC Sheldon that she has her own issues with, and she is making a statement that you don't mess with Caitlin Clark because I don't think that I have it here, but we also have, the I saw a long time ago, and I did do a video on that where we actually got to see the issue with the attack on Caitlin Clark from J.C. Sheldon with the trying to blind her, and then Marina Mabrey with her absolutely disgusting, cowardly, should never play in the league again, blindsided hit on Caitlin Clark. Tina Charles punching her in the back, and on and on. I saw a flip view from the baseline, and as soon as Caitlin Clark got hit, Sophie Cunningham, she was on the bench at the time, unfortunately, leapt off the bench and had to have a coach hold her back. Oh, look at she's like, JC, you don't want to play with me like that. I would, if there's anyone out there who has ever gotten an audio of that because someone has it captured, I would love to know what Sophie Cunningham is saying to JC Sheldon when she's got her in the Muay Thai clinch and is just like pulling her towards her, giving her a little lecture. Look, little girl, don't make me put you in timeout because I will put you in timeout. But obviously, that was something that then, of course, and with good reason, endeared Caitlin Clark fans to Sophie Cunningham. And Sophie is, look, I am not going to sit here and be like, oh, she's using it. I have not seen anything from Sophie Cunningham where it looks like she's being sneaky or disingenuous or all that. She did what she should do. She went to a team where there were opportunities because of the spotlight on the team. She was very likable. She was, you know, she gave fans access. You got to know her. You saw how she played on the court and the heart and grit and hustle, like Lexi Hull, who, by the way, I will shout out to. Also, she didn't do this, but when the incident happened, she walked down JC Sheldon and said, "No, no, 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 no." So I'm not going to dispute that, but this is kind of wild when you look at this now. This makes a good point, and I've said this in other videos. What I worry about with Caitlin Clark, especially if there's no 2026 season, while Caitlin Clark is still undoubtedly the biggest star in women's basketball and arguably the biggest women's sports star on the planet right now, there's no question her stardom took a hit because of her injury-plagued 2025 WNBA season, which limited her in playing 13 games. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. Maybe that's what it sounds like, but I see it with this channel. Last year when the season ended, this channel continued to grow. I mean, it grew more slowly than during the season. Obviously, there weren't as many videos I was putting out. There wasn't as much news, but it continued to grow. This season, with the season ending, we've gone backwards. I think down, I don't know, like 60 or 70 subscribers from the end of the season. And I think a lot of Caitlin Clark fans have tuned out completely. I mean, maybe they'll come back up, but they're kind of like, all right, well, you know what? She didn't really play. I've kind of gotten used to not worrying about her and so forth. So it's going to be interesting to see how 2026 goes. I think they'll all come back if the season starts and Caitlin Clark is healthy. So that's interesting. But here you go with the list. Sophie Cunningham, the only woman on the woman on the list, which is a basketball player. Now, this is interesting because I'm surprised there are a couple other women on here that aren't on here. Some tennis players like Coco Gauff, maybe Simone Biles, who I think was on the list last year. But as you can see, Sophie Cunningham at number 7 being the only one. Now, what's interesting is they had, I got to touch on this. Oh man, how do I do that? How do I say this in words? Okay, so Caitlin Clark was 7 last year. Now it says, unlike Cunningham, Clark was not the most searched women's athlete last year. That distinction belonged to controversial Olympic boxer Amin Khalif, who was number 2 on the list. Okay, there you go. We'll see. It was an Olympic year. Olympic gymnast Simone Biles was number 3. I thought she was on the list last year. Um, yeah. So Caitlin Clark was one of 2 women on the list. Okay, I'm just saying. Now, what's wild though, and maybe y'all can make me explain because see, they link to this right in Google search. I want to make sure I have the right one here. So this is worldwide, and I put Caitlin Clark on here as a comparison. I'm not sure how Sophie Cunningham is the most searched worldwide in 2025 because it looks like Caitlin Clark, they kind of patterned together, but Caitlin Clark is I mean, throughout the entire past 2025, she's more searched than Sophie Cunningham. And you look at the average number, 30 and 10. And then this is in the United States, basically the same thing. You had one brief period right here, August 17th to 23rd, where Sophie Cunningham was searched a little bit more than Caitlin Clark. But overall, so I'm not quite sure how they do it because this is what they reference. This is what Google references. Um, If we go, I think, do we have this year's? Let me see if we go up here. I think it's this year. The year in search was recently released, so this is based on Google Trends. We go down to sports, go down to athletes, and okay, well we got there's the five, and there's okay, so there's Caitlin Clark. I mean, Sophie Cunningham, right? So it is Google Trends. So I did it right. All I did was take this and I compared it to Caitlin Clark, the search. Oh, I thought that was going to give me the. Come on, AI, you should be able to figure this out by now. And there you go. So I don't get it, man. You have to explain that to me. But what I want to finish up with is the entire league. This is what's so damn frustrating with the WNBA, especially since they continue to play victim and continue to complain about all everything and anything with the CBA. Is the ratings could be much much higher than they are. Players could be getting more endorsements than they are. Right? This could be a bigger deal for them. All they had to do was embrace what Sophie Cunningham did. That's all they had to do, and they could not do it. They could not get past their insecurity. They could not get past their jealousy. They could not get past their activism. Instead, you had before the season even started, I believe, before the draft even started, you had Asia Wilson screaming racism with regard to Caitlin Clark and getting a shoe. We saw that throughout all of 2024 and all of 2025. We saw repeatedly over and over again from Asia Wilson to Angel Reese to Alyssa Thomas to Kalia Copper to and on to Kennedy Carter to J.C. Sheldon, Marina Mabry, and on. They just show themselves to be ungrateful, unlikable, petty, insecure, jealous. They lied about the Caitlin Clark fans over and over again. Dejanay Carrington, how could I not remember to mention the mustard? And that's why they're in the situation they're in. They could have done this. They could be on this list. They could be having their name searched because all they had to do was be likable, folks. Be likable. Embrace the opportunity that Caitlin Clark gave you and watch things explode for you in terms of your opportunities, in terms of your fame, in terms of your financial situation. But you just couldn't do it. Sophie Cunningham did it, and she is being rewarded for that fact. I'm just saying it is not a difficult thing to do. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate you checking out the video. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and by the way, especially in the comments, if I'm missing something with this whole, because I went right from that link to what they used. You saw me type in Caitlin Clark, how Sophie Cunningham is seventh and Caitlin Clark isn't on the list. I, I don't know. I'm missing something clearly. Anyway, let me know. I'll talk to you in the next video.